it feels like there is a much better time in the future to tackle the mammoth workload. Can it wait till tomorrow? Is a huge contributor to eradicating the time that we have. Do I really want to do that now? I wanted to get my time back. I know, this is gross, but hear me out. Hello, and welcome back to Real People, Real Talk. Thank you for watching the last video, and if you haven't yet, please check it out. Today, we're talking about something completely different. I want to start off by saying I'm not an expert, just a real person in the real world trying to maximize my time, sharing my thoughts and opinions and things that I've learned. As you may have guessed, this video today is about time and procrastination, and how we can be better at mastering our time and winning some of it back. As my commitments increased, I found myself with less time, but more importantly, being aware of having less time made me feel less happy in some situations. I kept thinking about what else needs to be done and not having the time to do it. I did not like that feeling, especially because the feeling sometimes did not allow me to be in the moment. I started to think about what I can do to maximize my time and do the things that were important to me. Time is incredibly valuable. One of the reasons for that is because it's so limited. For a lot of us, sleep and work take away around 16 of our 24 hours, leaving us with just 8. Within those 8 hours, you need to fit in an unworldly amount of tasks that need to be done. Cleaning, cooking, eating, personal hygiene, time with the kids, time with your partner, hobbies and interests, working out, shopping, socializing with friends, and the list goes on and on. Having less time also means an increased chance of procrastinating, especially if the thing you need to do might be slightly less enjoyable. You find yourself wondering, do I really want to do that now? Can it wait till tomorrow? I wanted to get my time back, master it, be more efficient. I also was not a fan of procrastination, which has become all too common now. I wanted to do better, so I became really aware of both time and doing things when they needed to be done. In this video, I want to share some of the things I've learned, some of the changes I've made, and how this helped me to get on a path of efficiency. I had to look at what was influencing my time and also what could lead to procrastination. I'm going to share the list that I came up with. This may be similar to yours, but if you sit and think about it, you may find more. Either way, the exercise of sitting down and really giving it some thought will help start the journey towards time awareness and efficiency. Let's start off with the first one, the smartphone. In 2007, Steve Jobs introduced the iPhone to the world, a device that would connect to the internet, play music, take pictures, and so much more. One device to replace multiple others. In 2008, we saw the initial release of the App Store on the iPhone, and then also the release of the first Android phone. In 2009, push notifications were introduced. Then in 2010, we saw the release of the iPad. 2011 was the year that smartphones outsold PCs, and whilst we had social media dating back to 1997, it was 2012 that Facebook reached 1 billion active users. We then see growth for Instagram, Snapchat, and all the other popular social media apps that came out, and continued to grow all the way until the explosion of TikTok in 2018. And throughout the years, we have continued to spend increasingly more time on our phones every day, especially because they have also become our productivity powerhouses. The phone has become so pivotal in our lives. We seem to take it everywhere and use it for absolutely everything. This is all good stuff, and having it all in one device makes it extremely accessible. But when using the phone, whilst there's other things that need to be done, it becomes a distracting personal assistant rather than one that helps to optimize your time. Moving on to my second thing on the list, taking too much time for things that could and should be a lot quicker. I like to call this time binging. Sometimes we get into a rhythm and routine with certain things that we do. We might even just accept that that is the way that they are. The practice of just continuing to do the same thing over and over despite knowing it takes way too long is a huge contributor to eradicating the time that we have. The third thing on my list, not having enough time to complete something, and because of that, putting it off to a time that may come at a later date. If you only have half an hour to complete a 50-minute job, it feels like it would make more sense to wait until you do have the 50 minutes available to you. Therefore, we might find ourselves being distracted and putting it off up until the point where nothing gets done, even though we had the time to do something. We end up in an infinite procrastination loop. And the last thing, for me, is the time we give to overthinking about what needs to be done. For example, I may have been in the car driving home and my mind will be racing with a still to-do list. When I get home, I still need to do this, and that. This is also true when you sit down with an open time slot to complete necessary tasks and start looking at a list that you have spent a good amount of time putting together and then just feeling overwhelmed by the sheer amount that needs to be done. This then leads to procrastination because it feels like there is a much better time in the future to tackle the mammoth workload. I like to call this the non-starter cost. As always, I don't think this is an expansive list. I'm sure there'll be many more examples of what influences our time awareness and efficiency. But let me go further with the ones I've identified and let you know how they impacted my time and how I changed some things to get my time back and start being a little more efficient and less prone to procrastination. Let's talk about the distracting assistant. Nowadays, the users for the smartphone have gone so much further than just making calls and interacting through messages. We see the phone used for managing money, checking and paying our bills, controlling our smart homes, interacting with cars and home technology, and of course, to stay in touch with friends and family. Add to that social media, which has exploded in popularity. We use it to stay on top of what's happening in our communities and friendship circles, keep up to date with hobbies and interests that we have, and also help to influence our buying decisions. Then there is mobile video, shorts, reels, and TikTok videos in short bursts with an infinite scroll. We are constantly up against 100 engineers that are working tirelessly to ensure they can keep our attention and retain our viewership through algorithms showing us exactly what we want to see. Now, it becomes incredibly hard not to watch. It feels like a battle to not scroll, and most of the time you'll find yourself going to your favorite apps by default without even thinking. One or two posts or videos into it, and the next thing you know, 20 minutes have vanished. And that may be on a good day. I cannot deny that I love a YouTube short. Perfectly curated material, bespoke to my interest in bite-sized pieces that I can watch for pure entertainment without having to use too much brain power. What does this do to our time though? Well, you may have guessed it. While enjoying the spoils of these modern video and social interaction apps, we lose hours in our day and end up procrastinating about the things that we need to do. Some examples of how the phone can impact us include sitting down to focus on a task such as responding to important emails, but instead auto-navigate into apps that you know will give you entertainment and dopamine-induced doom scrolling. Having some time to do some vacuuming in the home, but saying to yourself you will do this after just a few quick minutes on your favorite social media platform. Having your phone with you whilst undertaking simple and speedy tasks, making them much longer than they need to be, and feeling the need to respond or interact with every notification that may come in. Let me move on to what I call the time binge. There is things that we do every day that take a specific amount of time to complete. We still continue to do them every day even though we sometimes feel that they are more time consuming than we would like. It could be any mundane everyday tasks that need to be done, such as cleaning the house, cooking, or even going to the toilet. This could also be the fact that you need to untangle the hairdryer before you can use it, the fact that you need to wash up the saucepan before you can cook, or the fact that you need to rummage through your cupboard to find your car keys before you can actually get in the car and drive. For example, there was a point in my life where I was opening my mail app every day just to go through and delete numerous emails that I was sent that came from a mailing list, so I can see the ones I wanted to without distraction. The point is that I needed to be more critical of my time and constantly look for ways to improve these everyday tasks so that it took less time to complete, making me more efficient. What about the infinite procrastination loop? This is where you know that something is going to take a specific amount of time to do, and you look at or visualize your to-do list and see potential time allocations next to the thing that you need to do. If something was going to take 25 minutes, I would most likely put that off until 25 minutes is available. Also, with a to-do list sorted into priorities, it could make me feel that there was no point in starting if I didn't even have enough time for the top priority item. There is two things that I considered for this. Firstly, I had to be empowered to complete the items on the to-do list that I do have time for. You may strike off 3 things that were low time consumers with a lower priority and seriously thin out the list of things to do. Secondly, I had to think about the fact that some tasks can be partially completed. For a 50-minute task, you may be able to do the first 25 minutes and make this a lower time consuming task for the next slot you have available. For instance, if I wanted to vacuum the whole house and I knew that would take an hour, but I only have half an hour of that time, I can just do the downstairs and remove the weight of time associated to that task. Let's talk about the non-starter cost. I found this to be the number one contributor to procrastination. Thinking about all of the things that still need to be done may end up feeling overwhelming. I went through a serious mind shift. I started to do things I could do there and then. If I received an email saying, please respond by the end of the week, 10 years ago, my mindset would have been, great, I can leave that until Friday to do. But what ends up happening is that I've added another thing on Friday's list, even though the work needed for the response to happen would have been a low effort task with not too much time consumption. When I changed my mindset to if I can do it now, I will just do it, I became infinitely better at getting things done and also being more efficient on the days after. Another example might be that you have an idea to start doing something, like a new regular workout daily or a project around the house. Maybe a newsletter at work to let everyone know about the great work that's happening in your department. This is an additional action that will show up in your task planning every day. And whilst it will add immense amount of value, you will easily put it off simply because you have not started yet. This could lead to thinking, I could just start tomorrow, next week, or next month. There is personal growth in the actions that you're avoiding. Therefore, you're missing out on the better version of yourself. I've tried to categorize the most common factors that affected my time and made me less efficient. Let's talk about some of the changes I've made to not only be more aware, but also get some time back to use on what I felt was most important. Let's start with the technological marvel that is the smartphone, a companion for my everyday activities and in my corner, whatever challenge I might have. A willing assistant becoming more and more personal as time goes on. I first had to accept that a lot of my time was being allocated to the habits and behaviors I had become accustomed to while using my phone. Opal published an article recently and within it confirmed that the average UK screen time is now 5 hours and 6 minutes. If for most people, work and sleep take up 16 of their 24 hours, it means that you now only really have 2 hours and 54 minutes left. Of course, this is not to be taken literally, because many times you use your phone while doing something else, and some of that screen time may even be work related. Or it might be necessary for your daily tasks, but it does go to show that we may be distracted or not paying the full amount of attention for those 5 hours. The first change I made was around my notifications. Every app that I have ever downloaded wastes no time in asking me whether I want to turn on notifications to stay in the loop and get the latest updates. It does this during the first time you open the app. Rather than going into autopilot and allowing everything that's being asked of me, I now very carefully think about whether I will need notifications for that app or not. I also went through all of my existing notification preferences and turned the majority of them off, giving me the power back to open the app when I need or want to, rather than when it thinks I should. I was able to reduce my daily average notifications by 75%, and I'm now confident that the remaining 25% are notifications that are important or the ones that I want to see. After all, did I really need to pick up my phone to see that the new filter has been released on my go-to photo editing app? I don't think so. Talking about picking up my phone for unwanted notifications, The iPhone now has a section in your settings called Screen Time. This is a report of how much time you've spent on your phone, and if you're like me, then you probably dismissed this feature when it first launched, just because the number displayed as hours on your phone never looked very good. However, if you go into your screen time and scroll down a little further, you can see the average daily notifications that you are receiving, and also a section called Pickups. I like going into this every so often to see what app I may be using most directly after picking up my phone. This really helped me to keep on track with ensuring I don't slip back into old ways of being distracted. The next thing I changed in regards to phone usage is having it with me for tasks or activities that should really be quick and easy. The biggest thing here may be the time spent in the toilet. I know, this is gross, but hear me out. I have seriously come to believe that we end up spending at least twice the amount of time that we need to doing our business if we have our phone in there with us. YouGov completed a research study in 2019 and found that overall 86% of men and 84% of women under the age of 30 use their phones in the bathroom to some extent. The data is astounding, and there is also some health implications with sitting there too long. So I made a decision to leave the phone behind. Other examples could include things like cooking, ironing, folding clothes. You'll probably get the theme. Just mundane everyday tasks that are necessary but may take longer if you're stopping to check and interact with your phone every so often. It made more sense to me to finish those things quickly and have some extra time afterwards to quickly get up to speed with my phone if I needed to. A solid block of 5 minutes allocated to notification checking is more valuable than just as and when while another task is taking place. The last thing that made a difference was reviewing my auto navigation to apps and the idea that I could squeeze in a quick video or scroll on social media before starting the next thing I needed to do. Once I plucked up the courage, this was a very simple fix. I just removed the offending apps from my home screen. Now I was just left with the apps I needed every day for the important interactions with my phone. Banking, emails, messages, my Ring cameras, utilities, and so on. This immediately stopped the auto navigating because I know I needed to be more purposeful with what I wanted to do, especially because I had increased the amount of taps I needed to do on the screen to get into those apps. I also changed my home screen to black and white. I prefer the aesthetics of it. But more importantly, I have to think about what I'm tapping on rather than being guided by the familiar colourful logos that we all know and love. Having said all that, it doesn't actually mean that I've stopped watching videos or scrolling on social media at all. I just chose to not do those things at the times where other tasks were happening or needed to happen. As I said, I love a YouTube short, and I also love watching long form content on YouTube and occasionally getting up to speed with what's happening within my interests on socials. I just allocate time for this, such as the weekends or spare time in the evenings. And when I do, I have distraction free time to do so with a clear mind that all the things I wanted to do have been done. Let's move on to time binging. Firstly, I managed to take less time to do certain things just by addressing the smartphone being there when it didn't need to be. I think some of the changes we have talked about in regards to phone usage will help with the overspending of time. Let's look at some of the aforementioned examples, like deleting all the unwanted emails before being able to seriously look at my inbox. This came down to a little discipline for me. Spending a little extra time at one point to make a process infinitely more streamlined at another point in time. A simple action of untangling the wire of the hairdryer prior to putting it back works wonders. It will soon become part of your routine for that task and will make sure that the next time you use it, it's just ready to go. If I was looking for my car keys for 5 minutes before I could leave the house and was late because of it, I would ensure it never happened again by finding a better place for my keys so they're always accessible to just grab and go. Washing up isn't fun, but by making sure pots and pans are clean at the end of the day or the very beginning of a day ensures that when you do want to use just 30 minutes to get a meal sorted, you won't spend the first 15 cleaning up in order to achieve that target. All these little things contribute to the fact that we take longer to do things than we need to. But by adopting a continuous improvement mindset with our time, we can change that. The email one is pretty crazy to me. Somehow, we managed to rack up numerous subscriptions to mailing lists and get used to this idea of never reading these. I ended up in a spiral of deleting those emails without reading them every day just to keep the inbox clean. This seemed like an inefficient usage of time. I went through an exercise of unsubscribing from all of those emails I never read to win my time back. Now, I'm a proud gatekeeper of my email address, making sure to tick the box to say I do not want marketing emails when I don't, so that I'm not back in a position where I lose time to an unnecessary action on a daily basis. A thing to remember is that all of the above pre-tasks that we create for ourselves will inadvertently end up in contributing to the propensity of procrastination. For instance, I really want to hoover this rug, but the idea of having to empty the dustbin in the vacuum is a little more effort than I want to put in. I guess I'll leave that to the weekend. The other thing about being critical about your time is choosing where you want to spend it. If there's something that you're doing that you don't feel is adding any value, or you think to yourself, wow, that was such a waste of time, why did I do that? You probably want to make sure to never be in that position again. I came to learn that it's okay to say no. Be comfortable with the FOMO. If you have identified a pattern of time consumers that don't add value, I think that as we get older as humans, we get a lot better at this. But there's nothing stopping us doing this now to master our time. Let's move on to not having enough time to do what we want to do. This was when I felt like the time slot I find myself having just wasn't enough to complete the thing I wanted to do. And so I could find myself procrastinating until I no longer had the time slot available, resulting in not actually doing anything. Again, if you look at some of the things we have already talked about in regards to having a little discipline with pre and post tasks to an activity, you may find yourself in a position where you're able to squeeze things in. My mindset shift was to utilize whatever time I had to do the things that were on my list regardless of priority. It allowed me to reduce the number of things on the list and eradicate any procrastination. For instance, if I had 30 minutes to spare and my top priority item looked like it would take 40, I would either start the tasks so that it reduced the time for when I wanted to finish, or complete one or two lower priority, lower time consumption tasks, leaving me with less to do overall. This change in mentality really helped to avoid procrastinating and made me feel like I was getting things done. Not being overwhelmed by my list made it easier to manage time and get things done regularly, and being disciplined about the spare time induced me to avoid procrastination and also stopped me from reaching for my phone. Moving on to the overthinking about what needs to be done, leading to the non-starter cost. As mentioned before, this is one that I felt will most likely lead to putting things off, especially if thinking about everything that needs to be done becomes overwhelming. Some of these tasks may even be for the future, and nothing can be done about them today. If there's too much to do and it feels like I don't have enough time, I am more likely to try and put it off to a mythical time of later, which never really seems to arrive. I found the best way to deal with this was to put in place a system that worked for me. For tasks that needed to be done soon, I made a reminder list on my phone that I can tick off as and when tasks were completed. To ensure this list was front of mind, I placed it on my home screen so I would always see it when I picked up and unlocked my phone. This way, I would ensure those tasks would be completed on the same day. For tasks that were in the future, I added them to my calendar with a notification to let me know it was time to complete them. This system made sure I never missed anything, but also gave me the required nudge when they needed to be done. Most importantly, I never had the feeling of being overwhelmed by a list that had so many tasks on it with different deadlines. My new system only showed me the tasks that were required for the specific day that I was looking at, making it a lot more manageable. The mix between an extremely accessible immediate action list, my calendar app for future tasks, and reminder notifications made this system my productivity hack with pretty much no failure in task completion. I have highlighted the main categories that I identified as being my time efficiency blockers, and also described some of the ways I have changed things over the years to maximize my time. Most importantly, I have become increasingly aware of time, where I spend it, whether I'm spending too much or if I'm not spending enough. If there is just a few things I can leave you with from what I've learned about time, I would say this. Be incredibly critical of your time. Do what you want to do or what you have to do, and say no to the things that will make you regret your time investment in retrospect. Always question whether the right amount of time was spent. That way, you remain in a continuous time improvement mentality. And when you are spending time doing what needs to be done or what you want to do, give it your all. Full focus and attention. That way, you will not have any time leakage and you know you absolutely killed it. We do everything like we do anything. If there's a few things I can leave you with around procrastination, I would say this. It takes less time to do the thing you don't want to than the amount of time you spend putting it off. The best thing to do is just to start. Starting is the hardest part. Even if you cannot finish in the same moment, you have now reduced the time it will take next time you pick it up again. Learn to do things there and then if you can. It made me feel so much better. In the long run, doing what needs to be done made me feel better than the distraction I would have indulged in instead. As always, I hope this video has provoked some thoughts for those of you who have watched and listened. I would love to hear your thoughts and comments about how you manage your time and what your greatest blockers are. Please share this video with anyone that may benefit from it. Thank you for watching, and please award me some of your time to like, comment and subscribe. It would really help this channel and also ensure this video reaches more people who could benefit from thinking about their time too. My name's Bobby. This is Real People, Real Talk. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you soon.